welcome to Book World: The Great Escape. I'm author CJ Peterson. My co-host over here is author Michael Scott Clifton. Welcome. Today we're going to be talking book covers, making a good first impression. People say you don't often judge a book by its cover, but we say that they're wrong. Before we get into it, Mike, what do you have in the author world this coming month?
Pretty busy weekend on Friday. I think I mentioned this in the last podcast. I've got a friend of mine that's the dean of students at Tyler Junior College, and they every year they have a week-long arts fest. So the TJ Arts Fest is going on this week, and on Friday at 9 o'clock in the Jenkins building, which is the main building on TJC campus, I'll be giving a talk about writing, my author journey, answering questions. I've never, I've done sort of things like this before. I've talked to high school students and, creative writing classes. So I'm looking forward to that and answering questions. And then Saturday is the annual Hot Link Festival in Pittsburgh, Texas.
Okay.
And Ian Griffin started, which he was a guest on Book World, I think either last year or the year before last. He's a fellow author who's got a author alley started during the Pittsburgh Hot Link Festival, which is always a big deal. And it's grown from just a handful of authors to there'll be over 40. I believe there'll be over 40 authors this time around. And we will be on Main Street. Half of us will be on one side, half of us be on the other side. And if you people that stop by our booth will get raffle tickets. If they stop, they get raffle tickets that go in for a drawing. If they buy a book, they get like a dozen raffle tickets. I'm not sure exactly how many, but at the end they go into a pot and they can win various prizes. And so it'll be from 10 in the morning until 4 in the afternoon, and it'll be the main downtown area of Pittsburgh. And we're looking forward to that. It looks like it's going to be a beautiful day according to weather, no rain. So looking forward to that. And then in May, there's the SpaCon, which I haven't been to in several years. We haven't been to it in several years. I'm trying to see. That'll be May 16th and 17th. And that'll be at the Hot Springs Convention Center in beautiful downtown Hot Springs. So we're looking forward to that.
Sounds like fun. So I know that we have, like I said, if you're marking your calendars, mid-July, I believe it's the weekend 17th, 18th, 19th, we have East Texas Comic-Con. That'll be in Longview, Texas, and I believe you're going to be part of that one.
Yep.
And also at the end of August, 30th, 31st, something like that, is the Piney Woods Comic-Con at Lufkin, which I also believe you'll be part of, so make sure to mark that on your calendar as well. I'll be running around on the floor for that one, for both of those, because I run the floor. If you're interested in any of my books, please message me and let me know. That's at cjpetersonwrites@yahoo.com. That's cjpetersonwrites@yahoo.com. If you're interested in the books, you can find them at cjpetersonwrites.com. You can find them all on there, all 19 novels. Check them out and let me know which ones you want. And I will bring them with me. So today we're going to be talking about book covers and why they think you're wrong that you don't judge a book by the cover. Statistics prove otherwise.
That's true, yeah.
So we will take a look at book covers. So let's start with the fact that covers can be tricky unless you know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get it professionally done. And I cannot emphasize this enough. I have seen some very poorly done book covers. People do judge the book by the cover. That's the first thing they see. It's, they're going to see the thumbnail and it needs to pop or stand out among the others. Statistics say that 50% of the readers buy or select books based solely on the cover. 80% avoid books with poor covers. A compelling cover is essential for online small thumbnail visibility, often driving up 75% of purchasing decisions. Professional covers, which can double sales, usually cost between $625 to $1,250, depending upon which one you get. Too plain, 61%. Unlikable font, 56%. Inaccurate genre art, 52%, are top reasons for skipping a book.
It's a good, the point you made about getting it professionally done. We talked a little about this for the podcast. If you don't know what you're doing, now CJ knows what she's doing, and she's been in this business a long time, and she has some tremendous covers. Most authors don't have that kind of skill, and the point that CJ made about if it looks amateurish, you can have a Pulitzer Prize winning novel and no one's going to read it. You really need to make sure, if you don't know what you're doing, to get your book cover done professionally. And I can't emphasize that enough, because we've both seen books that you didn't need a second look to tell, hey, yeah, this person did it themselves, and they really didn't know what they were doing.
Yep. 41% of recent popular books use orange, yellow, or gold. 82% of top-selling books use dark or high-contrast colors. A well-designed cover gives potential readers an instant understanding of what to expect. And that's the beauty of it. Sometimes I'll design a cover and I'll be like, I need to go back and change the cover because certain things weren't actually in the cover itself, and I need to go back and change it. And certain things, I'll pick like certain elements as I'm writing the story, and I'll make sure to get those elements and put them into the cover. So it's like the cover kind of designs itself as I'm writing the story.
And some people think they can use, some people use AI to do their covers, and I've seen some of those as well. But the AI is only as good as the input in which they're getting. So again, if you don't know what you're doing, even using AI could end up, producing an amateurish, cartoonish looking book cover.
And you need to be careful with AI. Again, we've been through this before. You don't know where AI is pulling it from. It could be pulling it from somebody else's cover. You could get sued later on down the road. We're talking about well-designed covers. An example, a romance novel might feature warm, inviting colors or images of couple. A thriller might use dark tones, bold, suspenseful imagery. When a cover accurately reflects its genre, it attracts the right audience to set appropriate expectations. A successful cover design acts as a gateway, inviting readers to delve into the book's content. And that's what you want. You want to make sure that it's got accurately depicting what's inside the book. There's nothing worse than, think of it as food. Okay. You go and you got this nice cereal box and it looks awesome. And you go to pour it in cereal into the bowl and you add the milk and you go to eat and it tastes nothing like what you thought it was going to eat. Okay. That's like getting a book. Okay. You look at the cover and you think, ooh, this looks nice and juicy and it's going to be nice and good. And you go to read the book and it's like, this is not what I bought at all. And it's going to turn you off. It's not good advertising.
So the book cover needs to reflect the genre that they think they're getting.
Exactly. You need to make sure it's accurate. There's nothing worse than an inaccurate cover. You also need to make sure that it pops because it's this teeny tiny little thumbnail. It needs to make sure that it pops. So let me bring up that picture of those books again. When you look at the books, it needs to, that little teeny tiny thumbnail needs to make sure that it pops. Look at chain reaction on here. That's going to pop somewhere. It needs to make sure that it's going to stand out and it's going to pop as a thumbnail because you only have that teeny tiny little thumbnail to make sure that it pops out. And that's what you want.
So you're saying that if you have a full-size book that you're eyeballing in your hand, the thumbnail image may not have the same impact as the full-size book in real life.
Exactly.
So you have to be careful that the thumbnail sketch is as reflective of the pop you want as if you're just looking at it like a traditional book in your hand.
Exactly. Now, there's a couple things to consider. Color psychology. Different colors evoke different emotions and associations. For example, blue often conveys calmness and trust, while red can evoke excitement and urgency. By choosing colors that align with the book's theme and intended emotional impact, designers can influence potential readers' perception and interest levels.
Mm-hmm.
Something to think about. Visual hierarchy. Neuromarketing emphasizes the importance of visual hierarchy in guiding the viewer's attention. Important elements like the title, the author's name, key imagery should be strategically placed to ensure they're noticed first. This helps create a clear and engaging visual path that leads to the reader to explore further. So the title, the images, a lot of times I'll put my name toward the bottom because it's not quite as important to me as, say, like the title and the images. I want to make sure certain things stand out. They know that I'm the author. To me, it's not quite as important as, say, the title and the images. I want certain things to pop. What do you want to pop? I want my main character to pop. So to me, I want to make sure that that stands out a little bit more than my name.
If you're a famous author, Stephen King,
Yeah, that's going to pop a little bit more.
A lot of times you'll look at a book that they have written, a famous author, John Grisham. There's a lot of people that have made a lot of money at writing books, and they deliberately have their names in huge print that often dwarf the title of the book.
Exactly.
But it's because you see the author and that's selling the book. But most of the people that'll be watching this podcast don't have that advantage. So, you need to make sure that, that, as you were saying, that the title and the image and everything like that catches the reader's eye, not necessarily the author's name.
So, like for me, this next one, emotional engagement. The brain is wired to respond to emotional stimuli. Covers that evoke strong emotions, whether through dramatic imagery, intriguing contrasts, or relatable scenes, are more likely to grab the attention and create memorable impressions. That's more what I do. An emotionally engaging cover can also build a connection with the reader, making them more inclined to purchase the book. So for me, it's the images that are on the cover is more what I put forward. So that's kind of more what, when I'm making my covers, that's more what I'm kind of triggering forward. So go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I've been at a few book events where there's been some angry readers. Going back to what you said a little earlier about the book cover gave a false impression of what the genre what it represented, the wrong genre. The book cover and the genre that it was written in are two different things. And I was at a book, it's been a year or two now. I actually saw someone at a book event that was not me, okay, but it was a fellow author that I don't remember if they're next to me or just right across the aisle, who had an angry reader that came back and demanded their money back because they'd started reading the book as before they left, and they said that this isn't a fantasy novel, it's a romance novel. This is not a romance novel, it's a fantasy. So you need to make sure that your book cover is representative of the genre that you're writing. You're liable to, it's false advertising otherwise, and you surely don't want that.
No. So speaking of that, some pitfalls to avoid, make sure to consider the following elements: visual appeal, high quality images, illustrations, and colors that draw the eye. Make sure you're clear images. And I'll talk about that in a minute. Genre representation that you were talking about. Ensure the cover accurately reflects the book's genre to attract the right audience. Typography. Choose fonts that are readable, and complement the overall design. Title and author's name should be prominent. Balance and composition. Create a balanced layout that is visually pleasing and not overcrowded. Sometimes there's too many images. Professionalism. A professional looking cover signals to readers that the content within it is of high quality. This is a pitfall that a lot of indie authors fall into. Make sure everything is high quality. When it comes to indie authors, a lot of times we try to do it ourselves and it looks it.
Yeah.
So make sure that everything is crisp and clear and clean, and make sure it looks like it's high quality. It's supposed to be.
It reminds me of that famous line from one of those Dirty Harry movies Clint Eastwood was in. You know, a man's got to know his limitations. And if you're not a book cover designer, you need to acknowledge that and get somebody that knows how to do it.
Mhm. One thing you can also do, somebody says hi, hello. One thing you can also do, if you're not too sure and you have like a couple different covers, you can create a poll, which is kind of cool. You can create an ad that has, cover A, B, and or if you want a third one, C, and just kind of put a poll out there and say, hey, which cover do you like better? See which one stands out, kind of put a marketing poll out there and see which one, you like better and see which one stands out a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
When you're creating it, something to consider when it comes to covers. Ingram Spark and KDP have very painful templates.
Yep.
Ingram Spark is the worst. And I'm putting them both up here so you can see. Ingram Spark is very painful when it comes to the templates. They're very picky. I've had multiple ones get kicked back. And this is why. You have to fit it within this, and you cannot be over even a little bit. They get kicked back often. KDP has this nice little chart, and you really can't go over it too badly. I like KDP. It's very easy to put in there. There's a few limitations to KDP, and we'll talk about it in just a minute. But you can mess up Ingram's very easily. And the reason why is because of the way their templates are set up. But this is what their templates look like, just to give you an idea. So let's talk about KDP and let's talk about Ingram Spark. Before we get there, when you're talking about covers, if you're good with working with graphics, there are two ways it can be done. Photoshop directly, or you can work on another platform like, say, Canva and transfer it. Photoshop just makes sure that you're using, and this is where the sharpness comes in, 300 pixels, or it will not come out clearly. This is what I was talking about, the clarity of your pictures. Make sure it's 300 pixels. Otherwise, it will not be clear, and you're going to get it kicked back. It's going to look fuzzy. It's going to look horrible. Places you can go for graphics. You can go to places like Dreamstime or Shutterstock for graphics. If you have a premium account through Canva, those can be used on book covers. I verified it through Canva. If you're not proficient at Canva or not comfortable with Photoshop, there are places you can go to get help with book covers. You can go to Fiverr or 99 Design. You can go to these places. Please ensure you're getting commercial rights. That's very important. Make sure you're getting commercial rights for the cover. This will allow you to do whatever you want with the cover without clearing it with the artist. If you still want to give credit to the artist, you can put it on the copyright page and or on the book cover. Give the artist credit. They did the design. They deserve full credit for it, but make sure you get commercial rights to the cover. It will help you later on. Okay, now let's talk about the covers themselves. You may think putting together a cover is easy. However, it entails working with layers. Kind of like Donkey says, it has layers. If you have to make sure everything is lined up perfectly, this is where it gets painful, and that whole Ingram Spark thing I was talking about, you can go over very easily. And this is where you get stuff kicked back. Also, there are two different templates that we just looked at. When it comes to Ingram Spark and Amazon, Amazon is easier to work with. That's that whole KDP thing I showed you. They have an actual body to talk to if you have questions. The issue is you are limited to Amazon's reach. You do not need an ISBN, and Amazon can provide you with an AISN. That's their version of an ISBN number. However, be advised that some libraries do not accept books without an ISBN number. Keep that in mind. Now, Ingram Spark. This option will give you a greater reach. Example, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, Target, etc. However, you have to work with the email correspondence, which can be very painful, by the way. It's literally taken me 6 weeks to get issues resolved. Either choice, or both choices are really good options. Honestly, depends on your patience and who your readers are. Example, I have a reader who only takes Nook. I'm aware of this, and so I go through Ingram as well. So it just depends on who your readers are and, your patience level. Personally, I'm used to working with Ingram, so I don't mind doing both. So I'm used to working with Ingram's template, so I'm okay to do it. So I don't mind working with the layers either. What I do is I build it on Canva and I transfer it over to Photoshop, and I can whip them in and out of there, and I'm okay with it. A lot of it depends. If you're not good with graphics, then like I said, go to Fiverr, 99 Design, whatever. Hire somebody to do it. Just make sure you get your commercial rights.
Now, we'll point out that 80 to 90% of book traffic does go through KDP and Amazon. So keep that in mind if you're wanting to go the extra mile with Ingram Spark, in terms of going through, sounds like jumping through more hoops. I did Ingram Spark for my first couple of books as well as with Amazon. But I found that it didn't make a whole lot of difference with Ingram Spark, but it did with Amazon, because again, that's where most of your book traffic is going to be. However, if you're wanting to get into bookstores like Barnes and Noble to say do book signings, they really, as you pointed out, Ingram Spark is where they get their books. You'll have to have an Ingram Spark book cover, I believe, because they won't carry your book otherwise.
You can solve the whole ISBN number issue by going over to Bauerker and just getting ISBN numbers.
Right. And I think you should do that no matter what. The old adage used to be you get your ISBN and you'd send a copy to the Library of Congress on top of that.
You don't necessarily need to do that. Just go get an ISBN number.
Well, I've been told that ever since, for years, that to go the extra mile and to send a copy to the Library of Congress, and it deals with piracy issues, copyright, if there's some, if there's, if you want an ironclad leak-proof way of not having any of your books supposedly pirated, that's one of the things you should do. However, I don't know if that's true, but a lot of people that I know that have been writing a long time, they always send a copy to the Library of Congress. As well as the ISBN number.
Yeah, I think it kind of just depends on who you are and what you do and that sort of thing. So when we're talking about different book covers, when we're talking about the thumbnails, I'm bringing up my book so you can see the thumbnail sizes, and you can see all the books and the book covers themselves. So this is about the thumbnail size, and as you can see, the book covers themselves actually pop. And this is how I made my covers. And looking at them, for those who are watching the video, you can actually see that they stand out. And there's a reason that they stand out. And that's because my book covers each have a little element at least that makes them stand out and or pop, as I say. And the reason I do that is because you need to make sure your books actually do stand out. What is it that makes them stand out? Is there certain elements, whether it's colors or the different, like if you look at the Grace Restored series, Katie McKenna herself makes them stand out. It's the models, or it's the colors, or it's different elements, the firefighters from the Holy Flame trilogy. It's the 4 children in the Sands of Time trilogy. Whatever it is, certain elements make each one stand out. And so the idea is to make sure that when you create the cover, that your books themselves stand out. And so when we look at Mike's books, the ones that he has up, his also pop. Again, it's the coloring. It's certain elements. Like, look at his, is it the wheel? What is the ones with the witch down there? What is that one?
The Janus Witch?
No, the other one.
Witch's Brew.
Yeah, which one's that one?
That's book 3 of the Conquest of the Veil series.
The Conquest of the Veil series, all of those pop because of like the coloring. And I love that. So different things make his pop as well, whether it's the coloring or different elements. And the idea is to make sure that your book as a thumbnail pops and stands out. And that's the idea.
Now with audiobooks,
Go ahead.
they with audiobooks, the book cover has to be formatted a little bit differently. It seems to be square, correct?
It is, but it's still the same elements.
Still, yeah.
Mombi says great covers. Yes, they stand out. And that's the idea. It's basically it's the same cover, only it's square. So you still have the same elements, they're just in a different dimension.
Yeah.
So when you make your covers, you want to make sure that they do stand out regardless whether they're square or they're rectangle. When you do your covers, it really doesn't matter the sizing. It's the elements themselves.
Right. And the thumbnails that you mentioned, I think, is important because a lot of times when, as authors, you're going to sell probably a lot more books, online than you are going to in person. In-person books, where you have the actual physical books, you can have great covers. But if they also have to pop, as you pointed out with the thumbnail picture, thumbnail book covers, and so you really need to make sure that it looks great as a physical standalone book, but it also has to look good online to somebody as a thumbnail, as you pointed out. And I think that's an important point that people need to keep in mind when making a book cover.
Oh yeah. I mean, remember, as you're scrolling through things like Amazon or Barnes & Noble, whatever, you have all of these other books that you're competing with. And so you have to make sure that, yours is the one that's going to jump out of them. As Mommy says, she's a fan of the printed word. But you got to get past that door.
Yes.
What's going to jump out? What's going to jump out of them? It has to be enticing. It has to be like, ooh.
Yeah. You do, as you pointed out when we started the podcast. Yes, people do judge a book by its cover. That's the first thing they see.
Definitely. And statistics don't lie. I mean, 57% of readers buy or select books solely based on the cover, while 80% of poor book covers.
Yep.
There was one girl who had this amazing book, and the cover was brilliant. And I felt bad because she told me the concept of the book, and I'm like, I'm going to read you your cover just for free because the concept is amazing. Your cover is not doing it justice. Mm. And I did. Just because I knew that the book needed to get out because the concept of the book was just incredible. Right. So people do judge a book by their cover.
Mm-hmm. They do.
I'll tell you different. So thank you guys for joining us today. Next week we will have Kelly Lynn Colby, paranormal thriller author. So cannot wait to see you guys next week. Same time, same sandbox. See you guys then. Bye.